investigation, it was found that one of the most critical concerns of Asian Americans today is changing immigration policy. And I ask you, how many immigration stories you hear on NPR, you see in the New York Times about Asian American communities? Rightly so, as Latin American communities are being actively targeted, there is an increase in coverage, a slight increase in coverage of those communities, and of select Black communities in Minnesota. But there's a very small increase in coverage in mainstream news that have escaped from community media about immigration enforcement affecting our communities. Meanwhile, we know that Asian Americans were sent to be caged in Panama, were deported to Nepal, to India, that Chinese American students have had their visas taken away, that they're facing a return of surveillance, that student journalists have been deported and had their student visas taken away, that green card holders have been detained unlawfully. We know that this is all happening now because our community media is showing us. Our community media are reporting on these. Aside from maybe one or two stories about the mass raid on the Hyundai factory with South Korean immigrant workers being deported in Georgia, aside from that, there's precious little coverage of how our communities are being implicated. What I'm asking is for us to see each other as a united whole. That's why I've been doing this work, bringing together a women's network of over 68 Asian American women journalists who were facing hate crimes as well as patriarchy in their own newsrooms and discrimination and abuse within their own newsrooms and their own communities as the daughters of immigrants. I know many of us will be able to relate to that. But they came together and they were from every country in Asia. Every country in Asia. Today, the Asian American media ecosystem is AAPI media ecosystem includes more than 730 outlets publishing in 56 different languages. Some of these, as authoritarianism has risen in Asia, across Asia, include journalists in exile and pro-democracy outlets in exile that are documenting human rights abuses. There's an Afghan newsroom here that has women on the ground, undercover, in Kabul, reporting on Taliban human rights abuses. There are Uyghur activists here documenting human rights abuses in face of enormous repression from their families at home. There are journalists covering protests, the Shanghai protests, protests in Hong Kong. There are journalists who have been driven into diaspora from after the absorption of Hong Kong into mainland China. There are an enormous number of outlets that were formerly independent, founded here by Hong Kongers, that have now been coerced into signing cooperation agreements with state-based media. And into that gap, we have seen the emergence of tremendous digital news sources, such as the first Chinese language fact-checking site and a progressive news site published in San Francisco for Chinese Americans globally. This is a vibrant ecosystem, and I want you to know that since 2020, at least 95 new community news outlets have been founded. They range from industry magazines and glossy bridal magazines to hard-hitting investigative reporting, to community-based news, to translating immigration and fact-checking for communities, to cross-border narratives, to diasporic outlets who are serving entire diasporic communities where we create cultures and political ideologies in digital space. I encourage all of you to visit the AAPI Media Map, and if you have time to read an 80-page report, you are invited to read the AAPI News Media Origins and History Map report, which documents the evolution of AAPI community media from the 19th century through the present day. And if you have any questions about who you can follow and how you can support your community journalism, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.